People are going to come at me for this one, but that's okay. You see these little lines right here? Follow along. You know how they spread out and they do these little things like this? Well, what does that come out of? Isn't that Plane, right? Kimmy, come on. Right? Okay, stick with me. When we look at this thing, what do we think of? Maybe they talk about solar radiation? Yep. Be right back. Now, don't worry about the rhetoric on the screen. You guys remember this guy, right? Well, it's really not about him, but it is about something he said one time. And we're going to look at paper trails. And we were just looking at the CHEMICAL trails, right? In the sky. And we know that the PLANE is what does it. So let's talk about these paper trails. New Madrid earthquake prediction 35 years ago didn't shake out, but did raise awareness. So November 29th, 2025. All right, this is when this was written out of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. All right, paper trails. Stick with me. You're going to have to use your critical thinking skills. Earthquake hits New Madrid County in southeast Missouri. This is out of 4029. If you add this together, that could be 411. What do we do when we get on the phone? We get the 411, you know? So this is updated at 514 out of New Madrid County, and an earthquake with a magnitude of 2.3 was measured. Okay, stick with me. And just in case you didn't understand what I just said, there it is in its numerical form. There were a whole bunch of articles that day. Got this article as well. 208 right there with the 1.4. Now see, if we pay attention here, 514, 1.4, okay, 12 minutes later, magnitude 2.0. Let's not forget this is supposed to be related to the 1811-1812 incident. In the TTW article that we're getting ready to talk about, Travel and Tour World, it says, turn on the magic. And, well, what magic are we going to turn on? It's our logical thinking skills, friends. That's all we need here. Iberia expands New York presence with new daily flight between Madrid and Newark starting in March of 2026. And this was published on December 1st, 2025. We're going to talk about this. And I'll point out that the new service will complement Iberia's existing 2 daily flights to John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK. And before I go any further, I'm just telling you, this is all parody. It is all satire. None of anything I say is true. There's no possible way. Because if it were, we wouldn't be living in Kansas anymore, would we, Toto? Now, you noticed in the earlier articles, I was talking about some numbers. And we can look at these, 1935, you know, all these different numbers. Right here, you know, you see 1935. You can go through here a couple different times. You see the 23, you see the 55. Now, all this is going to make sense just in a minute, folks. Okay, 22, 25. Okay, 1935. That's the departure time. 1935. Well, 35, 9 and 1 is 10. Okay, so that's just 1. But 35, remember, we saw that early on the paper trail. Before we get to talking about that, though, we got to talk about this. This launch underscores Iberia's strategy of expanding its long-haul connectivity, especially to key U.S. cities like New York, which remains one of the airline's most crucial routes. It's a strategic move aimed at not only boosting capacity, but also at giving travelers better flight schedules and more seamless travel experiences. So I get a little tongue-tied sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and read what this says. It says, I'm describing a communication method used in covert operations where a larger instruction is broken down into many small, seemingly unrelated public messages, such as a line in a newspaper, a phrase in a radio broadcast, or a coded sentence in an article. Steganographic signaling hides a message inside an ordinary-looking medium. It could be a phrase, placement of words, timing, image choice, etc., and used to convey instructions without looking like a message. Number stations, one-way voice links, shortwave radio broadcasts used by intelligence agencies. Messages read publicly, but only someone with the cipher can interpret them. A classic method for orders sent through public broadcasts. There's also a burst transmission in distributed codes. The order is broken into segments, spread across multiple messages. Only by collecting all pieces can the recipient reconstruct the instruction. There's also cut-out communication, a technique where no signal message reveals the meaning. The order is hidden in pattern recognition that only the insider understands. So the 35, you get it? Only the insider would understand these things. 22, 23, 55, 13, 20. Makes sense. These things would connect through pre-arranged rules. The sender and receiver would agree on the medium, which is the newspaper, the radio show, or the article, the signal type, a phrase, a word placement, timing, and the decoding method. To everyone else, nothing looks unusual, but the intended recipient, sees the phrase appeared. That means proceed. The third word on line 12, that means location. This exact odd sentence, that means schedule change. It's essentially a distributed cipher hidden in plain text. So when we look at this, remember, this is New York, Madrid and New York. Okay, now we have all these numbers, 30, 350,000, which take away all them zeros. That's 35, bro. But anyways, in the New York market, where demand for flights remain consistently strong, the addition of the Newark route is in line with Iberia's broader growth strategy, part of its Flight Plan 2030 initiative. This includes fleet expansion, new routes, and digital enhancements to improve the overall travel experience. Digital enhancements. Remember connectivity, folks. Now, this article is pretty large, but again, a strategic focus on connectivity. Pay attention to this. Flight Plan 2030 expansion, which is really 23. The airline plans to further strengthen its U.S. presence by adding 5 new routes in the coming months. Now, this is a part of the transatlantic expansion. Aha, logical thinking skills. We're going to pretend like we're on the outside. New Madrid. A man from Howardsville, Missouri, had been taken to the hospital after a major crash. According to the Missouri State Highway Patrol crash report, the 74-year-old was driving a SUV on lanes on Interstate 55. Do you see the correlation? 74 is 11, 55. We saw that in the last one, didn't we? We also know this was published on November 25th, 2025. I just realized that if I allow me to say that, then people think that I'm telling the truth. We would hate for that to happen, now wouldn't we? There were a lot of articles that day, and we saw this already, right? Bam, bam, bam. Where was this out of? Missouri. And what were they talking about? An earthquake. Now, we're not going to talk about this, nor are we going to talk about this one either, because if we did, we know, then y'all might say I'm telling the truth or something, and then I'll get labeled as a conspiratorial misrepresentation of truth. Even though they were trying to tell us. I won't say that because they're conspiracy theorists. But we can talk about this, epigenetic marks. So epigenetic reprogramming works by changing modifications to the DNA, such as DNA, whatever that is, and histones, the proteins that DNA wraps around. These modifications act as switches to turn genes on or off. Let's see, influencing cell identity. Then there's also the methods, transcription factors. Ooh, look at that, the microRNAs. The applications are regenerative medicine, age reversal, disease modeling, and there's also therapeutic potentials. We're talking about multi-omics, which refers to the study of multiple biological layers of information, including the genome, epigenome, transcriptome, proteome, and metabolome. Let's touch on this one, data complexity. Each omic dataset has different scales, noise levels, and pre-processing needs, making integration a complete task. Connectivity. So what is connectivity? It involves technologies like air-to-ground and satellite-based systems for both cabin and cockpit, and connects various aspects of the aircraft, including its systems, maintenance, and all that. It's air-to-ground, satellite-based, multi-orbit solutions. And if you don't know anything that I said, because I'm not going to tell you what I'm saying here, because everything that I'm saying is absolutely false in the first place, right? There's no possible way it's all connected. Or is there, folks? People who would know what I'm talking about would have insider information on what to trade and what not. And never mind the fact that, Don let me know that there was a large earthquake that was being planned out many years ago. So this new flight path tells me they're in their final stages.